Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you to another in the series, In the Light of Islam. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on all of you. In this segment, we'll be looking at some questions regarding photography. And this is related to questions which came in the section before. In the previous segment, a question was asked regarding painting and drawing, etc., and what was the Islamic position with regards to this. And we explained there that the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, had informed us that those who would receive the most severe punishment on the Day of Judgment would be those who make pictures or images, and musawwirun. And we pointed out that there was a reason for this prohibition of the making of images of living beings, and it had to do with shirk, or worshipping others besides God. That this was a channel by which Satan would delude people into worshipping God through his creation. And when we look at the various pagan religions around us, what we find is that the vast majority of them use images in their worship. Now, the issue that is raised here by Sister Nikhat from Sharjah, she writes, Dear brother, Assalamu alaikum. During the time of Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, photography was not prevalent. What I would like to know is whether the Islamic rulings concerning pictures and statues applies to photographs and photographers. Thanking you. Yours sincerely, Sister Nikhat. This issue of photography is one where in modern Arabic, the person who photographs is called a musawwir, the same term which is used by the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, to refer to those who make pictures and images. And as such, it would appear from that general usage that those who take photographs are also included. However, there has been a difference of opinion amongst Muslim scholars in this regard. Some hold that the photographs are not in fact the same as the paintings and the carvings, because the photograph is in fact only capturing the light of something which is there, like a mirror, except that the image is held, fixed. So, according to that interpretation, it is permissible for one to take photographs, etc. However, if one takes photographs, blows them up, and then hangs them on the walls, etc., etc., where they now become objects of admiration, etc., where it is photographs of living beings, then we are entering into the area of the forbidden images. The other group hold that photography is only modern day painting and carving. He is the modern day version. His act is one of pressing a button, lining up the camera, but that act is still an extension of the act of making the pictures. And as such, they prohibit such pictures, except in areas where it is absolutely necessary, as in the case of passports, identity cards, etc., etc. So they do not permit photographs beyond that. Of course, one has to look at the circumstances and make a choice for oneself based on the arguments of both sides of the scholars, their different opinions. You choose for yourself, which seems to be the most correct to you, and then you have to live in accordance with that. You may not necessarily force anybody else who holds the other opinion to be more correct, but for yourself, if you have decided that one position is correct, then that's the one that you should go by for yourself. Now, I should point out that once a photograph is made using the basic techniques of capturing the light, if the photographer now goes with an airbrush or other means to modify that picture, where he brushes out all your wrinkles, your pimples, your, whatever is on your face, creases, whatever, they're removed, dark areas, they're removed by an airbrush. So you end up with an image which is not you. He has now entered into the process of painting directly. So that type, we can say, without a doubt, does coincide with the painter, the prohibited painter and image maker. But where one just captures the photograph, it captures the image of what is there without entering it and interfering with it and modifying it, etc. When we're talking about living beings, then according to those who hold that photography is not, in fact, image making in the same way that it was prohibited in Islam, such would be permissible. The second question from Mrs. Niaz in Sharjah. She writes, Dear brother, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to ask two questions on the subject of Hajj. It is stated that one can perform Hajj on behalf of someone else. Does this someone else refer to one's parents and or others like brothers, sisters, uncles, etc. also? What are the conditions that Islam has laid down in regards to this? Second question, this is regarding the Hajj sacrifice, Qurban, for those who are not performing Hajj. Is it necessary for such a person to abstain from cutting his nails and hair from the 1st of Dhul Hijjah until the 9th? The first question, performing Hajj on behalf of others, what is called Hajj Bedel. This can be for anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be a direct relative. However, if they are living people, the people who are living, it must be done with their permission. One may not just set out and make Hajj and then say, okay, I will give the reward for this. My intention is to give the reward for this to somebody else who is living without their permission. Furthermore, to make Hajj on behalf of someone else, one has to have already made Hajj for oneself. What is compulsory on us has to be given precedence over that which may be permitted, recommended, etc. So, the condition is that we have to have already made Hajj ourselves. And secondly, if the person is living, we have to have their permission to make Hajj on their behalf. If the person is dead, then we may just do so and ask that the reward be given to them. The second question regarding the Qurban or Hajj sacrifice for those not performing Hajj. That is, it is recommended for those people at home who don't make it to Mecca to sacrifice an animal on the Eid, the day of Eid, or the days following it, known as the days of Tashriq. These days may actually be extended beyond the 3 days following the Eid, right till the end of the month actually, because that month is considered one of the months of Hajj. Now, this sacrifice has been recommended by Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, not only verbally, but he himself used to do it every year. When he didn't go to make Hajj, he would slaughter an animal for himself and his family, and the meat from it would be distributed to the poor. Some of it he would eat himself. This, of course, is in commemoration of Prophet Abraham's preparedness to sacrifice his own son, Ishmael, and God giving him a lamb to sacrifice in place of Prophet Ishmael when it was clear that he would fulfill what God had commanded him. So we perform this act in commemoration of that act of Prophet Abraham, in giving thanks to God for what he has given us of wealth, which allows us to sacrifice this animal, and sharing that with those who are needy in the community. The Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, informed us that those who had the plan to do this sacrifice, that they should abstain from cutting their hair and nails from the beginning of the month until the 9th, till the day of Arafah, or the day prior to the sacrifice. This is, in a way, imitating the state of ihram, or consecrated state, which the pilgrim enters into. And it is recommended that we do so. If one did not do so, it doesn't mean that you cannot now make a sacrifice. But it is highly recommended that those who are going to make the sacrifice should abstain from clipping the nails and the hair until that point. And this, as I said, was a recommendation in order to help put us in the proper spiritual frame of mind to make that sacrifice for the sake of God. To feel ourselves entering into a sacred state. A state in which we are about to perform an act pleasing to God for the sake of God alone. In order to help us to purify our intentions and to do it for Him, we have been instructed not to clip our hair or nails. But if one does so, as I said, it doesn't affect the sacrifice. Nor is one required to atone for it, as in the case of a person who is wearing ihram, who has entered into the consecrated state of ihram during Hajj or Umrah. If they do clip their nails or cut their hair, then they have broken their state or affected their state. It's not broken totally, but has affected their state. And they're required to make amends for it, to atone for it by making certain sacrifices or fasting, etc. Another question from Nafisa, Sister Nafisa in Dubai. She writes, Dear Dr. Bilal, Assalamu alaikum. My question is regarding Umrah. After I have performed Umrah, is it possible for me to perform Umrah on behalf of someone else? If so, will I be required to leave Mecca and go to the point of Miqat and then assume Ihram again? I hope you will help me clarify this matter. Yours sincerely, Nafisa. Sister Nafisa, it is permissible for you to perform Umrah on behalf of someone else. If Hajj is permissible, and Hajj contains Umrah also, then naturally Umrah will be also permissible. Now, when Aisha, may God's peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad, and may God be pleased with his wife Aisha, when she began her menses in a state of ihram when she was going to make Hajj, Prophet Muhammad instructed her to go ahead with the rites of Hajj except for making tawaf, which she would delay until her menses stopped. When it stopped, then she made the tawaf. And she wanted to make Umrah. He told her to delay the Umrah until after the Hajj. Then he told her, when the Hajj was over, to go to Tan'im, which is just outside the boundaries of the Haram itself. And from there, she would put on, go into the state of Ihram and come in and make Umrah. So, from that, scholars have concluded that for a person in Mecca who has come from the outside like this, to make Umrah, they should go outside of the boundaries of Mecca. They don't have to go out to the Miqat, which are the distant boundaries